I have a scale.
I think we have a scale.
So I do, so this is my starter. That one I just added to, so you can't use it if you just add it to it. You've got to wait. And this one, so it's 500, I always use 100 grams. Oh, about a half cup. Once that's done, then I'll add a cup to this and let it work on.
Bubbling up again?
Yeah. I'll put a cup of flour in here. So now this needs to be built up again. So
you gotta let that sit out now?
I'm gonna just let this sit out, yeah. So now on this,
For how long?
when it starts getting bubbles.
When you go to bed, or?
Might be not till tomorrow, I don't know. When I start seeing that it gets liquidy on top, and I go by sight when it's got bubbles and stuff. So that's gonna sit out now. This has gotta be stirred. Now, the other thing too is use purified water. Don't use water that's been chlorinated, you know, like faucet water, because the bleach that accompanies it negates it.
Is it distilled water better than?
Yeah, distilled water is good. Any kind of purified water.
But anything out of our reverse osmosis is okay?
Yeah, that works too. All right, so now I need to add a cup and a half of warm water and a half of warm water.
Cup and a half.
Purified or reverse osmosis, not tap water. You do your, when you do your starter and then add your water, for whatever reason, the bread just turns out better when you put your starter in the bowl, add your water, and get it so that it's all mixed in. And then,
how did you get all enthused about making this on a continuous basis? Who gave you the...
I had the idea back in September, and then I tried to make my own starter, and that was challenging. But that air source over there hindsight 2020, figured out that air source was keeping me from making one because it kills bacteria and viruses.
Oh.
So I was having a real hard time getting it together. So when I figured that out and started doing it in my office where it's not so right next to it, it worked out well. All right, so now what I'm gonna do is now I need to put now I need to add 500 grams of flour, which is about 4 cups.
And you're doing this, and it's still got to sit, or are you going to bake it right away?
Oh no, it's got to sit. I'm going to do this. I have to stretch it. No, you have to take care of it. I have to take care of it. Then it has to rise. Then I have to knock it down again. I have to rise.
So you're
again.
not sifting that flour?
No.
I'm a siftaholic.
No.
I drive Wayne nuts because I always want to sift everything.
500, 475. I just need a little bit more. And then I need, I find I have the best result with the kosher salt. Calls for 12 grams.
Have you ever ordered?
I'm gonna mix this. Till it's soft. But you can see how this is just getting sticky. And then it's got to sit for a half hour before it changes. And in a half hour, so at 2 o'clock, I will, I don't know what they call it, autolyze or something. I don't know how to even say it, but see it's all sticky and uneven. At around a half hour, just before 2 o'clock, you stretch and fold and then turn the bowl. Stretch and fold, turn the bowl, stretch and fold. And you can just see the dough toughen, and then you let it sit, and so anyway, do that 4 times.
Let it sit for a half hour, 4 different times?
Yeah, sit for a half hour, then pull and stretch, pull and stretch.
And then sit for a half hour, and then
do it again. Yeah, and then put a tea towel, or a damp tea towel over it and let it sit. And it's gonna raise, and then you're gonna put it on a board. Also, I used rice flour, it doesn't burn. So I put it out on a board with some rice flour and make my shape, because it'll be nice and round and stuff. And I put it in a bowl, I think they're called, the little bamboo basket inside that I made, and then I stick that in there, and then I put the paper on the bottom, turn it around, and bake it in that thing. That's just been the best recipe. I mean, I tried other things, and that's the best way to do it. So anyway, yeah, that's it. It's just gonna sit. These are gonna sit. Not difficult. So the time just goes by. The actual time invested, not much, but it's the time goes by to do the next step.
Where's the bamboo thing?
The bamboo thing that I have. I thought I had one coming from Walmart, but they canceled it. They're hard to find, but this is the one I have. It's called a bowl, and I made this. So you can just put a regular tea towel in there, and I made this, and then when I put my dough in there, it'll go in here and it'll rise up, and then I put the parchment paper on and turn it over, and it'll go inside that, and use the parchment paper to get it inside of the...
You leave the parchment paper in there? Yes.
Yeah, you use it to pull it up and down. You need that.
Or burn?
It gets crispy brown, doesn't rip. You need it. You need it to pick it up and move it. Yeah, yeah, that's it. So now I've got the bread to the point where it was all sticky. It's been about a half hour, maybe 40 minutes. And now I'm gonna stretch and fold. And I'm gonna do this over the next 2 hours, about every 30 minutes. If you don't do that, it's okay. But let me just show you what happens. Hands should be wet. When the hands are wet, you just pull it up, stretch it, and you can feel how it gets tougher and more resilient. And you do it just around like at 12, 3, 6, and 9 around the clock, right? I'm gonna do that. That was the second time I did it. Here's the third. See how it gets real stiff? It's exactly what we want to have happen. And it grabs some of the extra bread dough that's on the side. And as I said, you do exactly the same thing 3 more times every half hour. That's it. I'll be back again. Welcome back. This is the 4th time I'm pulling and stretching. And so you can see that it's all pulled together now. It's got a nice consistency. And then all I'm gonna do is stick it underneath a damp cloth, and this is the 4th time. Stick it under a damp cloth in a room. And I'm going to wait for it to double. And then we'll knock it down and get it ready for the shape it's going to be in the bowl. So remember I said that the dough needed to double. Well, it's at a doubling point now. So I'm gonna sprinkle some rice flour. Now, the reason you want to use rice flour is because it doesn't burn. And I'm gonna simply pull this out onto the rice flour. And we're gonna turn it around a little bit more, just so you can see what I'm doing here. So there's the dough. And then we simply start mixing the rice flour in it, getting it in I don't do this a lot, just enough to mix it up, bring it down in volume. Sometimes I have to sprinkle, and it's a little sticky there, so I gotta get rid of the sticky with the flour. And then you can see I've got my bowl here. Now, if you don't have one of these, no problem. You can stick it in a bowl. But the bottom line is I've got this all turned around. The rough side is gonna be facing up. We're gonna put this in the bottom, like that. And now this is gonna rise again. If I leave it out in room temperature, when I get up in the morning, it's gonna be super big. And I don't have time to mess with it. So what I'm gonna do now is stick it in a cool place and then take it out and let it rise when I have time to bake it. You've got 24 hours to do that. All right, we're ready to bake the bread. So what I've done is I've had my Dutch oven in the oven. It's been about 25 minutes. It has to preheat to 550. And you do this empty. And at the same time, I'm gonna bring the temperature down to 450 now. As I put the dough into my pan. You can see I've got the dough here. Then I use my parchment paper. This parchment paper serves a couple different things, but the main thing is it helps me get it into the pan. Because remember, that pan's at 550 degrees. So I create my shape around my bowl, and I'm gonna turn it over. Part of the reason I put the towel there is it helps me with getting the bread there. Now I'm going to pick up parchment paper, stick it in the pan. And that's the other thing is now you have to give it an escape route. So I'm finding that when I do scissors instead of the razor blade, I'm not really good with the razor blade thing, but you've got to give it some place so it doesn't split. Give it a place to escape. Now I need to put the lid on, and I'm going to put it back in my oven with the lid on. Temperature is 450 for 1/2 hour. I'll be back in a half hour. Now it's been 15 minutes at 400 degrees. It is done. Take a look at this beauty. And now you can see why the parchment paper comes in so handy. Is I use the parchment paper to pick it up. You want to cool it on a rack. And they say you need to wait for an hour before you cut into it. That's hard to resist, but there you have it. That's how easy it is to make sourdough bread.